We have Peter Muhori, a magistrate at Githunguri Law Courts, and he's also a cameraman. And I want to now invite him to come and take us through succession and the Marriage Act. And I know he'll be sharing with us quite a lot. So, and later on we'll be put into groups, and when that time comes, I'll invite us to, once we get into our groups, let us engage in issues, matters, succession. Succession has always been a challenge. A succession issue is the Kirima family, which has been in the print and electronic media. Maybe he will talk about it just a little bit. But let us put our hands together, even as I invite Peter Muhori. I think we can do better than that.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning. Praise God. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. You know, it's very strange. I know you are wondering, Magistrate saying Bwana Yesu asifiwe. You're used to seeing very mean people. People who don't laugh, people who don't do anything. Wanakaa tu hapo wako like they have no feelings. Yes. Leo mtaona yule ako na feelings. We will have a discussion, a very short one. What I do is I speak very briefly and allow us to interact, because then from the interactions we learn a lot. My name is Peter Muhori. I am a principal magistrate, not resident as written. I am a principal magistrate, Githunguri Law Courts. I have been a magistrate for the past 15 years. So I have a little bit of experience. Sijafika hapo, na bado napanda. One day we will have a cameraman who is a judge. Amen? I worship at St. Veronica South B. I am a cameraman, and I am the secretary to the camera at St. Veronica. We want to talk about succession. And I tell stories, because for me what I see are stories. On Wednesday, a family came to my court. A mother and 5 children. Contention is, it's a criminal case, but it's related to succession. Their father died. One of the sons was very close to the father. And as usual, sisi huwa tunaficha. Tunasema tu mbili na zingine mnaficha. So this young man knew a lot of the dad's properties, which the other children who are not close to the father didn't know. So akachukua mama yake, akaweka mama yake kando, akaambia, "Mom, kuja nitakuonesha zingine zile ambazo hujui." So the father had properties in Nakuru, in Mombasa. Akapeleka mama wapi? Nakuru. But they are not processed. So wakasikizana na mom, tuko na shamba hapa Kiambu, inaweza fetch some money. Tuuze hiyo shamba, tuende to processes za Nakuru na za Mombasa, sababu they have much more value than the one we have in Kiambu. So behind the backs of the other children, yeye na mama yake wakaungana. Wakauza shamba ya Kiambu. Kapata pesa, wakaenda kuprocess shamba ya Nakuru. Several plots in Nakuru and several plots in Mombasa. Along the way, the other siblings realize that kuna mali ingine yetu ya Kiambu imeuzwa na hatukuambiwa. So they confront the mother. Na wanaambia mama, sasa tunataka utuambie nani aliuza shamba yetu ya Kiambu. Mama akaona nyumba imewaka moto. Akasema, "We, hapa nitafanya aje?" Akasema, "Hapa sacrificial lamb ni kijana." So akaambia the siblings, your brother forged my signatures, your brother sold the property bila kuniambia na akauza. I was not part of that game. It got serious. And the siblings said, hii haitaisha hapa. So they went to DCI and reported forgery. So wamesema ni forgery. So the brother was arrested, put in, and charged in court. Hiyo ndo kesi nasikia. So the brother is being charged for forging the mom's signature, na mama amekataa kabisa. Mimi sijawahi enda Nakuru. Mimi hata sijui vitu ya Nakuru nasema ni gani. Succession. Huyo mzee hakuwa amesema mali yake iko wapi. Huyo mzee hakuwa amesema vile itagawanywa, na ashaenda. Now they are in court. The shocking revelation is sasa that family is very split. Tukiwa hapo, si mimi nikaona ni mama na ni watoto. So mimi nikasema sitasikia nifunge mtu. Hii ni familia. My first duty is to ensure this family sticks together. So I told them, nataka kuwatafutia mtu ambaye sio wa familia yenu. Kwa hii mediation ambayo tulileta, niwapeleke huko. Young man raises the hand kwa gallery. Akasimama akaniambia, sisi hatutaenda mediation. Tunataka huyo afungwe hata kama ni miaka 10. Genesis is succession. So succession is a very thorny issue, and many, if we don't plan, we are in a lot of problems. All the fightings zinaendelea around are because of succession, and they are because we don't plan. We have shied away from writing wills. People don't want to write wills. Watu wanaona ukiandika will, you're anticipating death. Sindio? No, you're not anticipating death. And the ones, I've seen familiar faces here that we were with. I've told you, I have a will at my age. And I keep on amending. Mungu akinibariki na kitu ingine, naongeza. Nikitoa ingine, nikitoa hiyo gari yangu nibadilishe, natoa. You can amend a will as many times as you want. But I have taken care of my people. I know who gets what goes where, and whom I have given. Wakiamua kupigana ni hao wameamua tu kupigana. But for me, I have played my part. Kwa hivyo in the next like 20 or so minutes, I will share just briefly. I can't go into so much of the legal issues surrounding succession. But I will just point out. We have two types of succession when one passes on. One is tested, the other one is intested. Tested ni mtu ambaye ameandika will. Wewe umeamua, these are your properties, and this is how they are going to be distributed. Intested ni wale ambao tulikufa tu, and we didn't leave anything, we didn't say anything. Sometimes hata hatujui properties zetu ziko wapi. I would encourage that you fall in the first category of writing a will. You don't have to go to a lawyer. You don't have to go to anywhere. You can actually call a friend of yours who is trusted. Those who are married, you have best couples. Call him, sit down with him and tell him, this is what I'm doing. You don't have to tell him, I have given my firstborn this, I have given my secondborn this. Unamwambia wewe utasign tu pale nyuma kwamba you witnessed as I wrote this. Na unabeba will yako, unaenda unaiweka kwa bank na unalipia. It's 1,000 I think shillings per year for that will being at the bank. Banks keep wills. So you can deposit it at the bank. Na unalipia tu 1,000 every year for them to keep for you that will. but your best man knows there is a will at Equity Bank. So when you pass on, anaambia tu familia huyo aliandika will na iko wapi? Equity Bank. Inaenda inatolewa na inasomwa with whoever you have chosen to be the administrator or the one who administers your estate. The other side ni wale ambao hatujaandika will. So what happens? You have passed on and you have left behind a family. This is what the law says. When it comes to succession, the first ranking person to inherit your property is your spouse. So your spouse comes first. The law says spouse or spouses. It contemplates polygamy. Then the other beneficiaries come in. And that law is very funny. It was patrilineal, yani ilifavor wanaume. Ikasema, this lady will only inherit if she does not remarry. It doesn't talk about the man remarrying after death of the wife. Because again, the vice versa is true. If your wife dies, you're the widow. The widower becomes the first in rank to inherit. And it does not talk about the man akiremarry hata inherit ya bibi yake. But it talks about a lady who remarries will not inherit. Hiyo yake inaishia hapo. Then, after that, we have now who follows? The children follow. After wife, ni watoto. After watoto, ni parents. Not brothers, not sisters, parents. After parents, brothers. And then after brothers, now we go to the other people who are closer. Those would be uncles, aunties, and the other. In most societies, you'll find that uncles wanakuja. Hata paka wanataka kubypass. Si hata mmeona hapa tu skit ya Galaxy. The brother to this man is already contemplating what to do in that family. Yet the law does not recognize him as the first person who is supposed to inherit. So you find that when you pass on, your father becomes, and again it goes further to categorize. After spouse and children, your father ranks first to your mother. So if your father is dead, your mother comes in. And if your mother is dead, your brothers come in. And if your brothers are not there, your half-brothers come in, if you have any half-brothers. And if they are not there, now we go to the rest. The uncles and all that. If you do not have any relatives, where does your estate go? Inaenda kwa gava. It goes to the government. And therefore, the government picks it, it goes to the consolidated fund, inakuja kusaidia watu wengine ambao hawako na uwezo. Now, when you die without making a will, the first position you're supposed to do is you have to go to the chief. You have to go to the chief. So the chief becomes a very key person. And when I share, I say, ni vyema sana ujue chief wako ni nani. Your chief should know you, because it is the chief who writes introduction letter. Ataandika aseme, Peter Muhori aliaga. tunamjua, bibi yake alikuwa so and so, na alikuwa na hawa watoto, na pia alikuwa anasaidia mama yake, na alikuwa anasaidia baba yake. That letter is very important, because if you are not mentioned in that letter, you will not be part of that estate. So you can see the role the chief plays. So the chief has to tell us who your spouse was. The chief has to tell us where you lived. The chief has to tell us who are your children. The chief has to tell us who are people who benefited from you. So it is very important that you get in touch with your chief. Hata kama ni kupita, umsalimie, akujue. When you die, na unataka kufanya succession, kesi ya succession inafailiwa mahali ulikufia. So you die in Nairobi, we will file your case in Nairobi. Hatutatoka hapa kwenda kufile Murang'a ama Migori ama Malindi, tutaifile Nairobi. Ukikufia Kakamega, tutafile Kakamega. Ukikufia Limuru, tunafile Limuru. So we file it where, at the place of death. The other thing I want to point out is, in case, you know, when someone passes on, kuna mahitaji. So probably I'm the sole breadwinner. Ni wewe unafanya kazi, ni wewe everything. You've been taking care of things, and you want to have, to access part of this money ambayo nimeacha. Unaruhusiwa kisheria. So kuna grant ama ile authority tunaita colligenda, it's a Latin word. Hiyo inakuruhusu to access the estate. Let's say if alikuwa na bank account, inakuruhusu ku access that bank account to a certain limit. So you will come and convince us. Let's say, like for me, I have school going children. If I pass on today, and my wife cannot continue paying school fees, and she knows I have an account that has money, unachukua fee structures, unakuja kotini, unasema kwamba this person has passed on. He was the sole breadwinner. Hatuwezi endelea bila yeye. This school fees needs to be paid. Please allow us to access 100,000 every year, or 100,000 every 6 months to pay school fees. The court will allow you to do that. Kuna ingine, you want to, let's say, file a suit on my behalf. I died through a road accident, nataka kwenda kotini. Kuna ingine pia na Latin word tunaita ad litem, pia una file, na hiyo inakuruhusu tu kufile case kotini. It could be an accident, it could be a shamba, could be anything. You want to file on my behalf and I have passed on. You file that, the one we call ad litem. The other part of succession is, I just want briefly to say the process. So once you have the letter from the chief, there are 6 forms, 6 or 7, unajaza. They are elaborate, they are everything. Na lazima ukue umetafuta mali yote ya the deceased. The 6 forms enable us to understand that you have agreed as a family to file this petition, your succession. It also helps us to know the value of the estate. Anything below 20 million inafailiwa kwa magistrate court. Anything above 20 million inaenda high court. So those forms help us, because lazima ukue umetafuta title zote, and as you file lazima ukuje na title, lazima ukuje na search certificate na IDs za all beneficiaries ambao wana benefit from that estate. So once that is filed, we prepare the documents as a court, tunaipeleka Kenya Gazette for advertisement, kwamba ikiwa kuna mtu yeyote ambaye anadai ama anasema yeye ni part of that estate, ajitokeleze. And I was just sharing here, is a gentleman in Kiambu, na hizi ni tabia za wanaume sana. There is a gentleman in Kiambu who married, got 3 kids with the first wife, and amassed a lot of wealth. A lot of wealth. Along the way, money comes with a lot of issues if you're not disciplined. Akatafuta gashungwa. Kapata gashungwa. So he built a 4-bedroom house for the wife with the children. Ikaisha. Very nice house. Akapata gashungwa, and because he's wealthy, he went about 3 kilometers away from the first wives. Now, let me call it the first wife. And built gashungwa, a similar house to the first wife's house, 4-bedroom. Na akajenga ikaisha, and never disclosed to anyone that iko mtu mwingine huko, na alikuwa na mtoto huko. Then he passed on. Along the way, he is a man of means, and therefore he could manage to do whatever he wanted. So akitaka kwenda introduction kwa gashungwa, he paid a trip for the first wife and the children. Akawaambia, sasa mimi I want to treat you this year. Akawapeleka America for 1 month. So akawaambia, nyinyi endeni America mjivinjari. I have a lot of business things I want to take care of in Kenya. I will join you after about 15 days. And the children, for the first wife na wengine wakaenda, yeye akatafuta marafiki zake, akaenda kwa kina Gashungwa, akasema yenyewe ni mimi niko na msichana na mambo inaenda vizuri, msishtuke sana, na akapeleka mali kidogo na akakuwa received. So that's a wife. Si amelipa mahari, but haku disclose. Nobody knows other than the close friends ambao waliambiwa na hii iwe siri yangu na nyinyi. So these ones went everything. Now after he passes on, the other lady emerges. And the first wife is like, mimi bwanangu hajawahi lala nje ya hii nyumba. He has slept in this house for the last 35 years we've been together. Hii ingine ni porojo. Then she visits, curiosity. She visits the other home and realizes that this lady is in a house similar to hers. Mahali bedroom iko, mahali kitchen iko, mahali iko. To crown it all, this lady drives a Prado similar to hers. Na number plate zimefuatana. Which means zilinunuliwa wakati moja. You're doing investigations, you are in shock first that this man you have seen in your house literally every day has another family. She goes to look at the insurance sticker. It is taken by the same insurance company. Paid for by the same person. So same car, same house, same everything. These 2 people all go to the gym at Safari Park, but hawajuani, and for the longest. Anawalipia gym Safari Park, wanaenda huko, labda even they talk when they are there, lakini hajui kwamba huyu ni mwenzangu. And the man didn't write a will. He was a very wealthy man. Each ama sisi tunaendanga tunatoa 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. His shares kwa chama yake was 32 million. So he was a wealthy man, a man who would do these things. But he never wrote a will. They are now in court. The first wife has refused and said, hapana, Lakini iko kijana ako, hata I think now anaendelea karibu anamaliza university. Na anafanana baba. You see, we see them because they come to court and you can tell. Huyu amekaa huku na huyu amekaa huku, kila mtu na jamii yake. Na unaona kwamba watu wanafanana. He never wrote a will, and I can tell you they'll be in that court for a very long time. So once we have gazetted, so that such people come up and now say, I am also a beneficiary, it comes back to us. Sasa tunakupea limited, something limited. You can't do much, but now we give the administrator powers to now go and sit down with the family. Na msikizane kwamba Peter atapata hii ya Embakasi, George the brother atapata ile ingine, na ule mwingine atapata ile ingine. That process lasts 6 months. From the date we give you that authority called a grant, we give you 6 months to go and do all those things. Sasa msipo, after 6 months, you come back to court now to tell us, we have agreed. This is how we are going to distribute this property. If you have not agreed, sasa sisi tunawaambia bas, kujeni sasa mtueleze shida nini. And that's where now you find the Kirima family wamekuwa kotini for a very long time. It's because they didn't agree. There is an Indian family called Prakisha. They are also in court. They have not agreed. Now we listen to your stories. Tukishasikiza, we now sit down and try to imagine how best to distribute this property. You see where the danger is? Mimi siwajui. Mimi sijui properties because I don't visit. So if you are telling me there is a flat in Umoja, I don't know what that flat is. I don't know where it is. I don't know how. All I know is there is a flat in Umoja. It brings in this much per month. That's all. Now you give me powers to distribute and say, sasa hii flat ya Umoja mimi nimepea bwana Chea hapa. Na ile ingine ambayo iko Mlolongo nimepea yule. Na ile ingine nimepea yule mwingine. You see where the danger is? Chances are very high that one will reap more than the other, as I try to do equity. And this is, I was hearing a case last year where a family was fighting over property. Wamegawana, their dad, you know the way the Kikuyus culture is. Sisi hatugawi hivi across, tunagawa kila mtu apate mto. Si ndio? It has to be, whether it is a strip from here to here, it has to go to the river. Whether logically it would make sense to do it across, they will insist lazima kila mtu apate mbele na lazima kila mtu apate mto. That is their culture. So these guys were in court fighting. And they were really fighting. And I couldn't see why they were fighting. Ilikuwa inanisumbua. You know, I have heard you, but I am not convinced. So I told them, let's visit the land. So on a Friday, I took off from court, tukaenda kuona shamba. And I want to tell you, that shamba inatoka, ile walikuwa nazozania, inatoka kwa hii ukuta, inafika hapa, here to here, na inaenda paka kwa ile wall ya pale nyuma. 6 brothers were fighting, proper fighting, they don't even talk. How do you distribute that land? Anyone tell me? How will you distribute it? Wauze wamekataa kuuza. They refused. It's not on the table. Selling is not. And who will buy it? That strip in the village. Don't look at it in a town setting. Look at it. Unajua hii ni flat mbili hapa Nairobi. Sindio? It's in the village. So there are no options of flats. Who will buy it? What would you do if you are in my shoes? Anyone? I am supposed to decide how 6 brothers are going to get this trip. Anyone? Hapana, ni mali yako. Ni mali yenu. You are 6 brothers. No, amesema we cannot sell. This is our father's. Anyone? Try to. It is okay.
Just split it into 6. Each one to get a piece.
Let's try and split it into 6.
Yes.
From here to the end. Which means mmoja atatoka pale afika hapa.
Yeah.
Alafu mwingine hivyo.
Yes, yes.
Will the government give you title for that? 40 by, if I'm not wrong, minimum is 50 by 100, if I'm not wrong. Actually, those are 40 by 80, you have letters. You don't have title. Nani akona 40 by 80 akona title? Yes. A small fragmentation is 50 by 100. Na kila mmoja anataka title. Yes. Majina ziweke kwa title, wote wafurahi. And you know these are people who are not talking, They are not talking. You know, what you're saying is very right. All of them can own it. And it will be okay. One title. But they are not talking. So who utilizes it? Ngumu. Sindio? You want to know what I did? I told them nobody is inheriting. Tutapanda miti na hata koti itakuwa hapo. If you want to cut that tree, unakuja kotini, unaomba ruhusa ya kwenda kukata mti kwa shamba. I gave no one. And said the title will be in the names of the administrators. Watatu. But they don't own it. You know, as an administrator, you don't own it. So you cannot direct what happens on that land. 2 weeks later, walikuja wakasema tumeamua tupe ndugu yetu mkubwa hii shamba, alafu yeye atasimamia sisi tupate titles. And they had fought for 2 years. So that's what happens. So after you come back and you have not agreed, that is what we go through now. Now I'll issue judgment. And you see, the danger with allowing the court to issue judgment is this. Unajua mimi nasoma ni LR number, Nairobi block this. Nasema I am giving it to Kimani. Nairobi block this, I'm giving it to Otieno. Kumbe Otieno ako kwa hii block ingine. You know, they never disclose kwamba they have even built. So I give yours to him and I give him the other one. Then what happens? So the best way is try as much as possible to agree as a family. And try as much as possible to distribute your land if you are an old man before God calls you. Ita watoto. Ita your brother. Ambia Muhori, jenga kwa ile kona. Ama ile kona hata kama hautajenga ni yako. Do not wait for people to fight. People fight over your hard-earned cash, hard-earned. And you know everybody has. Si kila mtu hapa kona bank account. You know that's property. That is estate. You know, once you pass on, nobody can withdraw money until you get that letters of administration. Hata zikiwa iko na pesa ngapi. The other advice is, enjoy your money. Enjoy your money when you are here. Wacha kuweka pesa inakaa kwa bank, umeweka kwa shares. You go around. The gentleman I'm telling you about who is very wealthy drives a Probox. The wives drive Prados. He drives a Probox. Not that it's a bad car, but for me, with that kind of money, honestly, I'll not drive that car. I will drive something special. Because sasa umeacha wanapigana. Then after wamegawana, wanauza. Our children do not have the mind we have. And we have to accept it. Our children will not go to the village. In fact, if you have seen the trend and you interact with the young men a lot, they will tell you, mimi mutanichoma. Cremation. They are talking about it. So it's a reality that is coming, that most of them are going to opt for cremation and not burial. And most of them are going to write wills. Because that's where the world is headed. Wataandika na wataandika mimi nikikufa munipeleke Kariako, munichome. They will not go home. So we need to take care of these things before then. Enjoy your life. Kidogo tu. Not sana. Enjoy your life. If you have money, go for a trip, drive a good car, live at a good place. It is your money. Usiache watu wapiganie. There's a gentleman, I did his case when I was at Milimani. Gentleman was a little bit wealthy. He lived in Kileleshwa. Married, I was a very senior police officer. So he comes from Ukambani in Kitui. These are real life cases. It's the abstract story. Na sio ati nimesoma mahali. Ni mimi nimeandika. On his way, he was in Narok then. On his way from Mombasa, akasema wacha nipite Mwingi, nyumbani, nikienda Narok. So akafika Mwingi saa 6 usiku. When he knocked on his door, akapata the brother aliamua kumfanyia kazi kwa nyumba yake na bibi yake. Man got very annoyed. And because I think he was learned and whatever, he didn't want commotion. These are events that happened in about 1983, when I was a very young man, young kid, not knowing anything that is happening. So he went back to Narok and never stepped back to his ancestral land in Kitui. Got married to another lady in Nairobi, set up home in Kileleshwa, got other children with this lady. Along the way, in 2013, the first wife, now the wife ule wa huko, kaanza kuwa mgonjwa. Came sick, hospitalized, Nairobi hospital, on out, in out. Then, she passed on. This gentleman didn't attend the burial. Unajua hajamfukuza home. He had just started building his house at home, and he never continued with that process. So the house ikabaki mahali iko, si yeye ndo ako na pesa, wale hawana. So that house never got complete. The mzee never attended, but sent his firstborn son. Akamwambia, wewe utaenda uzungumuze hii kwa niaba yangu. Yeye alikaa Nairobi on the burial date. Shortly thereafter, the second wife also becomes sick and passes on. Mzee attends. Na unajua ni Mwingi. Si alienda pia Mwingi, akanunulia second wife somewhere else, built her home. He attends this second wife's burial, doesn't speak, asks the son again, the firstborn son from the first family, to speak. Akaongea kwa niaba yake, wakamaliza na akarudi Nairobi. So he had a son. He educated all his children. Hata wale wa first wife haku abandon even after the fiasco. they're actually professors. Hapa kwa second, 3 wakasoma, wakafika pia doctorate. But there is a young man here. Na huyu alizaliwa huku chini. Yeye akakuwa na dadi everywhere. Vile alimaliza form 4 akaambia dadi, mimi masomo ilinikataa. Mimi nitakuwa tu hapa. So dada akamwambia, weka hapa, wewe utakuwa driver wangu. Young man was very clever. So he walked around with mzee everywhere. He's the only person who knows what mzee owns, where and when. So when he saw mzee amekuwa mgonjwa anaelekea, ni kama wakati wake unaisha, he goes to town, gets a very prominent lawyer. Anaambia kuja mzee andike will. But mzee is still a bit strong, so he knows what to do. Mzee kwanza akasema, but prior to that, our watoto wa first family wakaanza kuona ni kama tunasukumwa. So they went to Machakos, filed a suit against their father and asked the court, ambia mzee atupe mali. Let him distribute this property to us. Now, case in court. One of the daughters is a lawyer. Ameita mzee very, very bad words. Bastard, nini, kwa affidavits within court. Na akasema sasa mzee akuwe compelled aseme ile hoteli iko Isili inaenda kwa nani. And mzee gets annoyed. Hey, how can my own children take me to court? So he calls this lawyer mwenye ameletwa kuandika will na anamwambia, first duty si will. I have written a curse. Written, not spoken. Written curse. I want you to go and serve my children one by one na uhakikishe wamepata na kila mtu amesign amepata hii curse. I am disowning them. And he takes it to these people. Na lawyer akafanya, si analipwa. Yeye akafanya vile aliambiwa na kila mtoto akapewa curse letter. You know, a written curse letter. It is something we don't know, I have not heard about it. Nilisikia hapo. Curses najua ni zile nakwambia na wewe umenifanyia hivi, naye hautawahi kuwa na amani kwa maisha yako. This one was written. So children are served and everything. Mzee comes back, very annoyed now. Amefika epitome. So he calls this lawyer and tells them, let's write a will. Wakachora will. Children of the first wife were not given anything. Nothing. But their children, now who are his grandchildren, walipewa urithi na babu yao. So whatever I would have given to you, I give your son or daughter. Then mzee passes on. But the children of the second wife wamepewa. Au kila mtu amepewa yake, akaambiwa wewe chukua ile flat iko Kileleshwa. He had flats in Kileleshwa, in Lavington, wherever. He was a wealthy man. So he has written to those ones and not given them. So the children of the father wakasema, hii haiwezi, unapatia aje mtoto wangu na mimi umeniacha? Wakakataa. Wakakuja kotini sasa wakasema hata hii will is forged. It is not genuine. Wakacontest na wakacontest. They are still in court. Sikuimaliza, bado anaendelea kuisikiza hadi wa leo. Now, you might be in a situation where you have sisters. The law recognizes that the sisters have a right to inherit their father's property despite the fact that they are married elsewhere. So hata kama wameolewa, they can still come to your father, who is their father, and inherit. And they have a right. And surprisingly is, they can inherit equal share with you. As men, we we should start accepting that fact that mali ya baba yako uko shago, your sisters can come and inherit equal share despite the fact that they are married elsewhere and own property elsewhere. The law says that there is nothing we can do about it. Recently, you've heard what the court has said. Children born out of wedlock can get a share. You don't have to lock them out. Those are things that now people need to start. That's the reality. You know, I am here, I will not talk the biblical way. I will not talk I'll talk what the law says. Unajua sisi tukuja sheria, hata mchungaji akikuja, I will apply sheria whether he subscribes to that sheria or not. Because that is what the law says, it governs us. Sisi hatukuwa wakifanya hiyo law. It's just the way when people come to us for divorce. Personally, I am a Christian. I know that divorce is what? Hatu encourage, tunasema muonge. But I divorce. Every day I separate people. Every day I do everything. Yes. So that is what the law is. And if the law says we divorce on these grounds, that is what I do. But Christian way is we don't divorce. I wanted to speak something little about if at some point you find yourself, your brother went behind your back, obtained a grant, hata akaanza kutransfer property. The law allows you kwenda kotini na kupinga. So don't shy away and start saying, apana, we alienda kotini, sasa apana. Just go back to court and tell court, this man concealed that I exist. The law allows you to do that. And it is very clear that the court will allow you an opportunity to say what you want. So after we have now distributed, we give you 6 months to go and distribute this property. And you know, kama ni shamba, the land registrar does what we have said. So if we have said you'll get 0.18 hectares, the land registrar will give you a title with 0.18 hectares. If it changes, you have to come back to court and tell us that it has changed. So that is, it's advisable that you get the services of a surveyor. And again, you saw the skit before distributing. Unajua unakaa na title. Most of those titles have wrong measurements. Even the titles we hold. When you go to the ground, unapata the measurements are not what is on the title. So you guys have converted, mnadhania muko na 5 acres. The truth is you have 4.2 acres on the ground. So it is very important that you actually get the services of a surveyor. Akuje hakikishe it is 5 acres. Even if it is not for purposes of subdivision or anything. Just get the services of a surveyor. The other persons who might inherit are people that the deceased person owes. If you owe someone, they are also entitled. Some of us purchase from families and there are distress calls. Uko shago, family imepatwa, wanataka school fees, hawana chochote, wanakuita, wanamwambia lakini shamba bado iko kwa babu yetu. Tafadhali tupatie hizi pesa, tukifanya subdivision, tutakupea title. You entitled. So you become part of the succession process. Unakuja kotini, you ask for the court to give you the particular piece of land that you bought. I'll just mention something on marriage as we as I wind up, and then we can go to the next session that is more interactive. Marriages. If you have contracted a Christian marriage, you are not allowed to contract any other form of marriage. If you have contracted a civil marriage, ile ya AG, you are not allowed to contract another marriage unless you have divorced. You must divorce first before you get into another one. If you get into another one, that is adultery. If you've contracted a customary marriage, ile hamjaenda kwa AG na hamjaenda kwa kanisa, it is potentially polygamous. You can marry a second wife, but with the consent of the first wife. Kwa hivyo uende kwa bibi wa kwanza, umwambie mimi nimeonelea nilete msaidizi mwingine hapa kwa hii nyumba, anaitwa so and so, kwa hivyo mtakuwa wawili kuanzia leo. Na yeye akwambie yes, I consent. If that consent is not there, again you are in an illegal formation. I don't know how people will get that consent, those who intend to join that bus. Sijui vile utapata hiyo consent, hiyo ya a second one. We allow divorce. Previously, anyone under civil and Christian, you would not divorce until 3 years are done. The High Court recently said hiyo kitu ya 3 years is punitive. So they have left it open. They have actually said you can divorce at any time after you have contracted marriage, so long as you find that it is not working. I have again shared with some of you this story. A gentleman got married to a lady. This is a real life case. The gentleman took $1 million, I think, a loan of about 3 million or 2 point something million. They did their wedding, went for honeymoon for about 3 days at Karen Blixen. Wakamaliza, wakasema hii haijatosha, wakapaa na ndege wakaenda Dubai. Waliporejea kutoka Dubai, msichana alikuwa anachukuliwa na baba yake kwa airport, na kijana alikuwa anachukuliwa na ndugu yake. The marriage had ended while in Dubai. It lasted a week. And they were before me for now divorce. The other thing is consummation. Najua wewe unachukua msichana wa mtu, and we talk as men. Unakaa na yeye, hizi conjugal rights haziko. Wewe you don't make love with this lady and you have married her. Bila consummation, there is no marriage. So ukichukua msichana wa watu, make sure there is consummation. It is part of keeping that marriage healthy. And if I was to bluntly speak it, because I was checking around, I've seen I only have a small boy there, but he should be a boy who has done reproductive biology or something, or science. Have sex. That is what consummation is all about. You know, it might look something very simple. Tuko na cases ziko kotini. Marriage was not consummated at all. At all. Alioa, wakaenda honeymoon, nothing. Wakatoka honeymoon, wakarudi hapa wameishi 6 months, nothing. Na sio ile mlikuwa mnaiba before marriage. Hapana. Hii after mmesimama hapa mchungaji amesema, and now I declare them husband and wife. In fact, it is advisable that on that day you must do it, unless nature on her side does not allow. Do it. Consummation is a ground for making that marriage void. Nime dissolve. Probably in my career I have dissolved like 5 or 6 cases where there was no consummation. Yes, non-consummation is a ground for divorce. In fact, not divorce. Making the married void. It never existed. Ile ingine it existed, nimewa divorce. Hii it never existed. I return you to where you were, I return her to where she was. So young men, let's consummate. Whenever you get married, let's consummate it. And to speak about where sasa yenyewe umekaa, it's not working. Wanatuambianga tuwapatie time. Let's give each other time. So that is the mtaa language. Hebu tujipatie time kidogo, it's not working. These are realities. These things happen. It's not that hata pastor, si hatukwake every day sababu anasoma Bible, everything is rosy. No. It's happening in our families. There is something we call legal separation. Legal separation. Unakuja kotini, una request to legally separate from your wife for a while, as you rethink whether you want to keep it on or you don't want to keep it on. Legal separation allows you 2 things. It allows you to get into another relationship, but not marriage. And it will not amount to adultery. Tumepatana. Legally, nikipronounce, legally Peter is separated. My wife is called Sally. Legally, Peter is separated from Sally. That has allowed me to have a girlfriend. And it has allowed her to have a boyfriend. But we cannot get into any marriage. So I cannot go pay dowry. I cannot purport to have anything with her. But what happens? The end result, you know what will happen. That something will happen and marriage will be there. Now, I'm just trying to see whether I've left out anything that may require. Now, I have some real life cases that I am handling. So I want to group you into a few groups. Discuss and see what you arrive at. It will actually help you be able to appreciate what you can do in your family and how you can go about it. Najua mimi nikiongea nitaongea legal, mtalala. But now when you sit down and discuss these scenarios that I want to give you, you will actually appreciate how to handle it in your own family. Because everybody who, I've told the simplest part, everybody who has a bank account has something for distribution. Hata kama iko na 3,000. Na kila mtu ako na M-Pesa. Nani ana M-Pesa? Pia hiyo ni estate yako. Ukikufa kesho, it forms part kwamba in his mshwari and his M-Pesa statement we had 50,000. Iwezi toka unless you shared the pin with someone who will quickly transfer it. Haitatoka. And if you have very bad siblings, they'll come and say, my father died on 25th. We are seeing a transaction on 30th. Who did it? We want our 50,000 back. Okay? There's a family, very learned guys. This is the last case scenario. Very learned guys, lawyers, nini, mama yao alikuwa wealthy. Mom was a farmer in Kiambu, coffee and tea. So she passed on. These guys agreed on everything. But the elder brother, because he was long retired and living in Kiambu, Gishagi, akatake over the dairy farm. Ya mamake na banana plantation na tea farm. Akaenda akabadilisha bank account mahali sasa proceeds. Unajua haziwezi enda kwa ya mama. Sasa zianze kuja kwa yake. And improved. Actually did a splendid job. Number of cows increased. Number of banana plantation increased. Tea plantation grew. And the guy was doing very well. The wife was the manager. But he never involved the brothers. Never gave them a token. So on distribution, the brothers have said, let him come and account for the money he got from our mother's farming. Na hawakuwa hapo, jamaa walikuwa tu huko Nairobi. Yeye huko anasumbukana asubuhi kuamka kukamua ng'ombe saa 7 ya usiku, saa 12 asubuhi kutafuta thara na kila kitu. Their brothers are not there. They are now in court saying he must tell us how much he got. What happens? The law says he must account. So hiyo pesa alitengeneza na bibi yake, wenzake wakiwa Nairobi, inaletwa tugawanye. So how do you go about it? Niliibia wale tulikuwa nao Ruai. Nani anakumbuka? Who remembers what I told you how to go about it? You remember? What do you do when you find yourself in such a situation? Pay yourself a salary. Pay yourself a salary and it goes into expenses of the farm, of the estate. At the end of it, utakuja unasema we were making 2 million every year. My salary is 1.6 million. So I only owe you 400,000. Yes, done. Utawapea tu 400. You can go into groups. I have, I think, 4 scenarios. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. You mentioned something about the spouse being the principal person once the husband dies. I have this scenario where the grandfather, my wife's side, passed on. He hadn't written a will. So, of course, he had shared out part of the property with the children. But there are some properties that were well known where they are. And now the first wife died, so he remarried. So he has children with the first, he had children with the first wife. He has children with this other wife who he married thereafter. So we have this scenario where the lady knows what was left. She's now. She's sold off what was known, and she's gone and bought property elsewhere where it is not known, and favoring her children, leaving out the children of the first wife who passed on. That is one scenario. I saw that as a loophole. Number 2, become problematic. My in-laws are both deceased. Mom, COVID 2020, my dad-in-law, heart attack 2021, 6 months later. So they were living in Goingwa. So my wife, now the ancestral home is Nyeri. So we went to the Nyeri chief for the letter of introduction. The assistant chief had no problem, he wrote the letter. But he addressed it to the area chief. The area chief has refused to write that introductory letter because the mother hailed from Meru. So he sent us to Meru for that letter. And yet the mom is buried in Nyeri, but Meru is where she hailed from. Yet she died in Thika, Ngoingwa, where she used to reside. 3, issues of wazazi not declaring children. Let me say in my own scenario in our family, I've come to discover that I have other siblings. That probably even my mother and because my dad is a polygamist, my even know. And they are there. And so I'm looking at it like a time bomb, as I don't know how to approach it, because you can't go asking your father, how many children are we? Culturally, it's unacceptable. You know, it is unacceptable. That is not something you can discuss. But I've discovered I have other siblings. And apparently, even one currently is being raised by my father. So part of what we are giving him in support, although he's still working, he's in his 80s, he's working, but part of what we are giving him, I'm told by his staff, unaingia na unga na yogurt, amekuitisha hizo vitu, ukitoka tu hivi, mtoto anapigiwa anaambiwa kujia, vitu zimekuja. So zinaingilia mlango huu zikitokea huu mwingine. You know, so, and he has not declared. But I'm seeing like I'm sitting on a time bomb that immediately this man goes home, we will start having people popping up and saying we are also part of the family. So I'm glad you're bringing these issues out, because I know men don't want to disclose these things, and they have done it there, and it becomes a problem. And you see, I'm a mchungaji, but I don't know how to deal with this. The other family has other two achungajis, but we also don't know how to go about this. And Mzee is very tough, because you cannot go telling him anything. He's those old wazees that are very tough. Thank you.
I just answer mchungaji, and then we will allow the question, then we can do plenary now, both as you present and as you ask questions. Now, about, the law says she ranks first. The spouse ranks first. But it does not say she inherits everything. She just ranks first. Priority is given to her. But she has to disclose each and every person who has come or who was a beneficiary of this estate to the court. So anyone who has bought that property from her, hiyo ilikufa tu hivyo, pesa yake ilikunywa maji, ita revert. Yes. So you can encourage this action to challenge? Yes. Yes. Any property you sell and you have not disclosed all the beneficiaries and you have not involved them, the persons who have purchased, actually, wako na shida. Pesa yao imekunywa maji. And on that, just in a minute, I give you a scenario. There's a gentleman who purchased land from a wife and a husband in somewhere on your way to Kiambu, a place called Tinganga. So this gentleman akanunua na akalipa pesa. But it was land still in the names of the grandfather, now the father to the seller. And then the seller, the gentleman, passes on. And the wife to the seller, who had consented but not in writing, comes up and say, hata mimi mzaa kuniambia nauza hii shamba. Na mzaa amekufa. The time they were doing this sale, they told this gentleman, sisi tunataka kuhama Kiambu. Kama unaweza enda kutununulia shamba flyover on your way to Naivasha, we will be very happy. And this man was gracious enough. Part of the money, he actually went, bought them land in flyover, and built them a house, wooden. That side they are common wooden houses. So this gentleman has passed on, and the wife has said, sisi hatukuuza shamba, hata huyo hakuwa na authority ya kuuza shamba. Shamba bado iko kwa jina ya baba yake, na mimi namuzika hapa Tinganga. siendi kumuzika huko. And you know, these events happened in 1 year. The sale, the building, and the death in 1 year. And they came before me. What did I do? Who guesses what I did? Pesa yake ilikunywa maji. Whoever sold him, this. Sasa wakikuja, unajua ukitume mpesa 50,000 anakuambia alikuwa ananilipa deni yangu. It becomes a very big problem. Wewe kusema kwamba hiyo haikuwa deni. How do you get out? Ngumu. Issue of children not declared. These children will inherit. That is the sad reality. These children will inherit. And that's why I started with that disclaimer. Men write wills and make provision for them. Niwe unajua. Sisi hatujui. If you look at me, you can't tell whether I have another child somewhere else who is not Sally's. Right? Can you? No. Ni secret yangu. Probably the only person who will know is my very close friend. Ambaye niliambia nikasema unajua ninakuanga na mtoto mahali fulani. Kuja twende nikuoneshe. Ni yeye probably natumanga nikisema peleka sukari. Ama peleka mtoto shule. Ama fanya nini. Nobody else knows, and nobody gets to know this person until you die and they show up. So stop embarrassment. In Luya tradition, si tunaonyeshanga anko. Ukiwa na mwingine huko unatafuta one of your uncles, unamshika mkono, unampeleka, unamwambia pia hii ni damu yetu. So he's the one who stands up during your funeral and say, hata huyu nilionyeshwa. Huyu ni wetu. So if you find yourself in that, declare. They will inherit you. Unfortunately, there is very little you can do about it. They are beneficiaries. And one of the scenarios we are doing, letter of the chief. Your scenario is a letter is issued by the chief of Nyeri. Who authorized burial? The chief of Nyeri. So anakutuma Meru ende kufanya nini? Nothing. Yes. It is the chief of Mary. Are they even allowed to ask for title deeds? No. Don't give them title. Don't even tell them what the person owns. It is not their duty. Their duty ni kuintroduce. Najua huyu mtu ni wa location yangu na alikuwa na hii mali. Period. Usimpatie title, usimpatie bank accounts. We don't even want to see them on that letter. Na akikataa, tumia barua ya assistant chief. Hiyo tu ambayo uliandikiwa yeye aliaddress kwa chief, enda na hiyo kotini. Then explain it later on why it is not the chief's letter and it is the assistant chief's letter. It will work. Yes. Yes.
A round of applause to the magistrate. I think you can do it better than that. Now, he mentioned that he will be taking us to some group discussions, and we are going to have 4 groups.
Bwana sifiwe. I'm here on behalf of court number 1. And on the first case, as the magistrates, we decided that they need to have given the spouses first. So that one was our ruling. And then on number 2, we felt that Jeremiah lost because he did not involve the beneficiaries. Number 3, hatukufanya. And then number 4, Kellen becomes the heir, but we felt that also Josephat could be considered. And thank you so much. It was a good opportunity. We also blended with the members from the other churches and we took the list. Thank you.
A round of applause. A round of applause even for them. So court number 2, kindly. Court number 2.
Praise God. Amen. In court number 2, in scenario 1, we find that Matthew Matthew will petition the case to the court. As court will have nullified the grant due to enclosure. That is the scenario number 1. Then we have the scenario number 2. We find that the sale is null void because Jeremiah did not follow the proper channel of that sale. That is the scenario number 2. And then scenario number 3, we have what is the fate of Grace Auma. We find that there is no claim there. Then in this question number 2, the second one is what is the fate of Anya Marende. We find there also there is no claim. Then we find the question that is followed, we say that what is the fate of the grant issued to Anne Josephine. We find that is a correct one. Then we have not tackled that scenario number 4. And we have enjoyed that session, and we thank God for that.
A round of applause to court number 2. Court number 3.
Praise God. Okay, for court number 3, the jury for scenario 1, we decided Matthew is able to contest. First and foremost, the letter of administration, because this is a big family, so probably they will needed to have more than one person as the administrator. So there is that. And then 2, the succession, also he has the right to contest the succession of the property by the step-brother. Scenario 2, this actually sort of gave the members a headache because we didn't have some of the information. For example, in the agreement, the partnership, did they all have the right to sell at any one time? Was it needed that all 3 had to consent to the sale of the property, or any 2 would decide? So there was that. There was some details which were missing and really caused headache in the group. Hence the reason as to why we only tackled 2 cases. Second is the sales transaction. It will be deemed collapsed because Jeremiah didn't fulfill part of the sales agreement to be able to clear, should be able to have cleared paying for the property within 6 months. So thank you.
Code number 4 and the final one, so that we invite the magistrate.
Yes, court number 4, scenario 1. Okay, they go back to court and get the title revoked, and then they sit down as a family, and then they can decide and agree on whatever they want to, on the division of the land. Court number 2, court number 2, Jeremiah has lost the deposit he made on the land because they did not involve Gitao when they are selling the land to Jeremiah. Scenario number 3, what is the fate of Grace Auma? Grace Auma cannot stop Anne Josephine to be administrator, because administrator doesn't own the land. He can sort, because she was the brother to the deceased. Anne was the brother to the deceased, and then Grace Auma even was affirming here from the letter of chief that Anne Marende Kadagale was also a brother to the deceased. So both, if you look at the scenario which were given before, it is the first of all it is the spouse, then the children, then the parents, then brothers. So the brothers, they have to sit down as all of them, not one person. So what is the fate of Ania Marende Dagale? He has no right to sell the land to Eric before they sat down as the brothers to the deceased. What is the fate of grant issued to Anne Josephine? Yes, they are being administrator. Being administrator, one person among the brothers can be administrator. Doesn't mean that he owns the land. He's just administrator. So his right to be administrator, the court was right to give him, to give her that right to be administrator. So he cannot be denied that administration job. What is the effect of the two chiefs' letter? The first chief letter stands. The second chief letter to sell the land to sell the land doesn't stand. The first one stands because it is just an introduction. Josephine went to the first chief, write an introductory letter, which stands. But this one of selling the land, because Ania Marende Dagale doesn't have that right, because they were supposed to involve the brothers, all of them, Josephine and Dagale, when they were selling the land. So the second, that letter, that chief right for land sale doesn't stand. We did not do that one of scenario 4. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think you need a better clap. You have done good work. I see if you are sitting where I'm sitting, mungekuwa mmetoa correct verdict kwa zingine na zingine mungepotea. But how was the experience? Now imagine one person sits down to think about these things. Na ijaandikwa mahali where you copy paste. Unasoma, unafikiria, unaandika. Na kesho yake wakitoka kotini wanapiga nduru. Wanasema ai kwa nini alipea Gashusha. Huyu Gashusha lazima alimnunulia chai mahali kwingine huko Mombasa Road. Na wewe uliandika saa 8 usiku peke yako kwa nyumba yako. Scenario 1, Jomo died without a will. He was married to 3 wives and had several children. A son of the 3rd wife went to court and was granted letters. The only property of the deceased was given to that son. Matthews has now realized that the property was given to his stepbrother. What will he do? You go back to court. You tell court this man concealed all the beneficiaries. We revoke that will. And we revoke those letters of administration. Your process inaanza afresh. That is what happens. Scenario 2, Gitau owned a piece of land together with Simon and Stanley. Gitau passed on and Stanley and Simon decided to sell the land to Jeremiah without involving the beneficiaries in the estate of Gitau. Jeremiah paid part of the money and failed to clear the balance within the 6 months as per the sale agreement. The administrators of the estate of Gitau have learnt of this transaction. What is the fate of Jeremiah and the sale? Gitau owned this property with Simon and Stanley. So he has shares. Those shares are part of the estate of Gitau. They can only be sold with the involvement of the estate, Gitau's family. So they cannot sell it. I wasn't interested in what the agreement provided, where you're asking for more information. Hapana. The bottom line is, those shares form part of the estate, and they can only be distributed as per the law of succession. So lazima wakuje wapate letters of administration, alafu waende wachukue. When we are now confirming that grant for distribution, tutasema shares za Gitau kwa hiyo piece of land zinaendea Peter. Okay? Scenario number 3. It was the long one, lengthy one. You have it there, Kashusha. Scenario 3. As he looks for scenario 3, I can tackle scenario 4. Mr. Muchangi died in 2019. he left behind Kellen, a daughter-in-law who was married, to Justin, the only son who is now deceased, and her mother Beatrice, who later on passed on. He owned a piece of land which the court gave to Kellen as the sole heir. Japheth Muchangi has come up claiming that he's a son of Muchangi by virtue of the fact that his mother, now deceased, was a sister to Muchangi, and when she died, she left him in the care of Muchangi. He grew up within Muchangi's homestead and even took up his name and has known no other home. You are to determine whether Japheth and Kellen are heirs and or beneficiaries to the estate of Muchangi. Again, I said, who are beneficiaries? Persons? So the onus becomes on Japheth to prove that he depended on Muchangi. And you know, if you are young, you have to show he paid your school fees, he gave you a roof, evidentiary proof. Sio kuja kusema na maneno. Evidentiary proof that he paid your school fees, he paid your land, your upkeep, he gave you shelter, he gave you food. It does not just end there. There are facts that are not part of this, but the sole is Japheth was not able to prove that he actually depended on Muchangi, and therefore I ended up giving it to Kellen fully. So Kellen inherited that land fully as a daughter-in-law. Scenario 3, Zacchaeus Kadagale died on that day. According to the letter from the area chief of Tambua location, he left behind one Anne Josephine Owinga as his only heir, since he did not have a wife prior to his demise, and that the said Anne Josephine was his child born out of wedlock. The said Anne went to court and was issued with the letters of administration. Later, one Grace Auma Oloch sought to stop Anne from dealing in any way with the estate. She says that she and another are the wife and mother respectively of Eric Oloch Ogwang, who had purchased the estate land from one Ainea Kadagale, a brother to the deceased. She attaches a letter from the chief confirming the sale of land, but did not indicate when exactly this sale was done. A caution was placed. She further stated that Anne Josephine was not a daughter of the deceased, but her blood sister, and that they had common parents, and therefore the entire process was fraudulent since there was concealment of material facts, and she urges court to stop the said Josephine from administering the estate. Here, again, I tried to summarize a very lengthy case. What is the fate of Grace Auma? First, I nullified the grant that was given to Anne Josephine. She did not disclose everybody who would have been heirs or beneficiaries of this estate. So I nullified it. What is the fate of Ainea who purchased from Eric? Eric didn't have authority to sell that piece of land, and therefore the sale to Ainea is void ab initio. The two chiefs' letters, I disregarded both of them because they were all not disclosing the correct position, and I asked them to get fresh letters from the chief. You know, as a chief, you cannot write two letters. We cannot have two letters declaring different beneficiaries. You cannot oversee a transaction. Chiefs don't oversee sale transactions. They don't play a role. So msiende kwa chief, akuandikia akusainie. Chief will help you to do background check. Is this land genuine? Has it been sold to someone else? That is their work. That sale agreements is not the work of the chief. So avoid as much as possible allowing them to oversee sale transactions. So that was it. I just wanted to jog your mind so that you know what process to do and what to do. So now I have taught you 3 things in those scenarios. I have taught you that you can go to court and challenge an issued grant. Sindio? And I have also taught you that a chief's letter is very important in any transaction. And I have also taught you that it is important not to be fraudulent in any disclosures that you do to court. You would rather go there and say everybody and say why I should not get and the other one should get. Okay? But do not leave them behind. They will make your succession process long. We can have a few questions.
I suggest, because of time, maybe we have like 3 questions, very burning,
Yes.
from the congregation, and then we'll go to the next speaker. 3 questions from the plenary, from the group. Yes, we have 1 here, 2, and then the last one, 3. Only those.
I think it's now afternoon. Good afternoon again. I've got this question where, let me call him my grandfather, had got parcels of land that he pointed to his sons, now my father and uncles, and the titles were not processed. So, okay, my father processed his titles, but the other brothers didn't process. So they're still in my grandfather's name. Now, one of the uncles passed on without, okay, he married but without any children, so the wife has also since passed on. Now, how does this land flow? Because it was pointed to the youngest son who did not have any, let me say, children, and the wife is also passed on. If we are to go to court for letter of administration, or if I were to go to court for a letter of administration, what do I need to consider, or what happens? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Angawa, and I wanted to ask about 2 things. One, my grandfather had a land. The title has a name on it, his name on the title. He had a brother. Then he said, okay, I will give, he settled that brother next to him. And then, okay, my grandfather died, all of them died, and even my father also died, my mother died, and then the title deed is still on my grandfather's name. Then he left, when my grandfather died, he left the title deed to his brother. His brother also died. He left the title deed, the brother left the title deed to his son. Now, his son is is the custodian of this title deed. Now, we are now big because my father died 1992. Now we are now big. How do we go about this? Is it that are we supposed to give them some piece of land because he settled the brother in that land? Then the brother also acquired some properties, which of course, his brother acquired his property, which of course they divide on their own as a family. Now, us, we have not divided this title deed. The title deed is still read the name of my grandfather. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2, I bought a land, a plot of land. Then I started develop it, and then maybe I ran out of cash. And then I have a brother-in-law who is also helping me to bring up, okay, to develop the plot. How should I go about it? Must we, because we are planning maybe at a certain point, we are going to share the profit the proceeds that is coming out of that land or that plot. How should I go about it to put it right, such that when things will be smooth later in future? I think I have questions.
Okay, thank you. My question is about the marriage, as our legal expert, you told us how the scenarios whereby divorce, you allow divorce. There was this case where you said that for a marriage to hold, there must be consummation. And then I am very curious. As a legal expert, I know you give your judgment based on evidence. So my curiosity is, how do you confirm that there was no consummation? Because maybe a lady can just decide to seek a divorce. She has no, but now she decides to use that one, that there was no consummation, because she wants divorce. Then she uses that one for her to get that divorce. Thank you.
I was actually waiting for that question. I knew someone would ask how we. Well, by the time you get to a point where someone is coming to raise consummation, ni ukweli haijafanyika. So what happens? If you have indeed consummated your marriage, this is what you tell us. On Saturday, 25th, at 6 p.m., we were in our house in Buruburu. I took her from the sitting room, took her to the bedroom, and we had sex. That is the evidence we use. Be specific where, when, what time. Yes. Be specific, because you see, we don't do medical examination, we don't do what? Even if you go to do medical examination, probably this happened prior to marriage. You will still find out that this person is not a virgin. Yeah? You will find that this person has already engaged in these things before you married her. So you become very specific. Now the onus is on you. Mimi nimekuja nimesema huyu jamaa hajafanya kitu. The onus now becomes on you to say, mimi nilifanya na nilifanya hivi. 25th, 26th, tulikuwa Serena Hotel, pia room number, hii masaa nilifanya hivi. Tukatoka hapo, siku ingine tulikuwa tumeenda Oshago Murang'a, hii masaa tena nikafanya. Yes, na pia kama ulienda kwa kahawa, sawa. Unasema pia tulikuwa tunapitia kwa kahawa, nikasikia aji imekuja, sini wako? Ama kwa mahindi. Okay. If you bought land and you wanted to, you are developing with someone else, you either register it jointly with that person, the land, or you can incorporate a company and register where both of you have shares. Then it means that even if you're not there, and then the other person will actually inherit from that, your beneficiaries will inherit. There is another aspect, and I have told many people, you register tenancy in common, especially for property that you are developing or your matrimonial property. Stop this notion kwamba you do not want your wife to own. It is sad that you are dead and people are fighting your wife and your children. And because you had this mentality kwamba mimi siwezi andikisha jina na bibi yangu. How do you cover your daughter and your children? You register it as tenancy in common with your wife. That property does not go to succession. That is the beauty about it. Ukikufa na ni tenancy in common with your wife, the property does not go to succession. Your brother, your father, your sister, your mother cannot chase away your wife from that property. Ni yake. Haitakuwa listed whether they were dependents, they were beneficiaries or anything. So let's do it. Even if you do it in secrecy, do it. And keep that title as tenancy in common. Utakuwa umesecure your children. Hawatapata shida na your wife won't. Now, you gave a scenario that was lengthy about your grandfather. The title is still in your grandfather. And what I understood is that all their children to your grandfather are deceased, and their wives are deceased. So who comes next online? The grandchildren. You will inherit the share that would have been your father's. And the other children will inherit share that would have been their father's share. So you can petition from where you are as a grandchild to get a share of your father's estate. Now, the problem you are telling me is that they settled, your grandfather, is it your father or your grandfather? Settled. A brother. And you allowed it. So how are you going to chase him away? Hey, exactly that. It was his wish that he stays there. So if I have land and I call my brother, anasumbukana, huko, hana shamba, amerent, I have 10 acres. Nimwambie kuja uende pale kwa kona, nimekupatia 1 acre, kaa hapo. That's his land. I have bequeathed him. I have given a gift. We call it a gift in Tavivos. I have given you a gift. It's his land, hutampea. Don't even try to fight it, because the end game result is atapewa. I can't really, I didn't get exactly your question, probably a minute, you just.
The scenario is, my grandfather had got 3 sons. Out of these 3 sons, he actually did whatever he was supposed to do. Son A, this is yours, son B, this is yours, son C, this is yours. Now, let me say son B sorted out his papers and the land sat in his name, but there are those ones that are still registered under my grandfather's name. Son C never had a wife but didn't have children, but he had got parcels that were, given to him. Now, as a, let me call it an interested party, I'd want to sort out those things because my grandfather is long dead. My two uncles are long dead. My father may follow suit soon. Yeah, I mean, he's aged. It's not a, so how do I sort out, how do I start doing this succession? Do I have any right to do it?
Yes, you have a right to do it. And most of the time, if you are in a family that is in that scenario, people have passed on and whatever, and you are able, pick up and do it. Do not wait for everybody. So you have a right as a grandchild. Your dad is not there, right? He's there. Yes, but now he can get his. The rest are not there. So pick the elder sons from your cousins and bring them on board. And together with you, go ahead and it goes to the next person in the order of consanguinity, your blood. Who is the next? Your father. So your father takes up your brother's share. Just as I finish, and I am not introducing the next speaker, I give scenarios. Yesterday I was brought a gentleman. Walikosana na bibi on Wednesday evening. Kaambia bibi pack and leave. So bibi akapack hiyo jioni. It was late in the night and she had prepared a meal for this gentleman. The gentleman had eaten. So the wife left and went. When the wife wanted to live with the daughter, the gentleman became wild and said, no, wezi toka na mtoto. Mtoto anabaki hapa. And the wife said, mimi sitaki tupigane, ni usiku kunanyesha, hata sijui naenda wapi, wacha kwanza nitafute mahali pa kulala, and then kesho tunaweza ongea. So she went away and slept at a friend's place and left the child with the father. The following morning, she called a friend of hers and her cousin, a gentleman, akamwambia kujeni mnipeleke kwangu, mimi hata nimechoka. Nataka tu niende mnisaidie nichukue vitu zangu na niende kabisa. When they got to this house, They found the daughter on the bed, dead by strangulation. Daughter on the bed, dead by strangulation. So men, talk. Ukiwa na shida, enda uko nje, ongea na wazee. Kama wewe ni mtu ya chai, kaa hapo kwa chai yako, ongea. Don't die. Don't die. Definitely this man was going through something. It's just that he was not talking. Now, murder. He's here, is the first suspect. Maisha yake imeenda api? He's 28 years old. He's not someone old. Thank you so much for listening to me. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I do not take it for granted that I was given an opportunity to speak here. We rarely speak in such forums. And when we get an opportunity to speak, we say asante sana. Nawashukuru hata kwa kunisikiza. I will leave shortly because I have another function to attend. But we are together in this journey of manhood redefined. Sawa, na leo tu hata kama haukupata chochote, toka tu hapa na kitu moja, enda uandike will. Mimi ni proponent wa will. Mimi na kama haujui jinsi ya kuandika, ongea na Gashusha, atakuambia vile unaweza nipata, nitakusaidia kuandika na uandike na uachie watu wako wakiwa na amani bila vita. Mungu awabariki sana, tutaonana tena.
Let's give it up for Magistrate Peter Muhori. Thank you so much, my brother, for even agreeing to come. I know you had a very tight schedule, but you're benevolent to us just to come. And I don't want to take it for granted. And just like he said, he's a member of St. Veronica in South B. He's very reachable, and he has the passion kutusaidia sisi wanaume. So let's take advantage of him. He's a calm man, and really he wants to help us. And I think it was worth your while to be here. Was it worth your while? Tumpigie makofi tena. And since he's saying he wants to leave to go to another place that he is required, I'm humbly asking that we have a group photo out there so that as he leaves, then we can be able to have that as a memory for the good work that he did for us.